Hi, my name's Brian, and I just wanted to go through a brief tutorial on how to get up and running with the software sides of embroidery. So, how do you just create beautiful designs like this, a nice letter A with Amanda behind it? Let's take a look and see how to put that together. The first thing you'll need is a way to edit the embroidery and create the designs on your computer. It's a lot easier than creating on your machine. My favorite program is sold by S&S Computing. Go to snscomputing.com and then under Shop, go down to SewWhat Pro. The really nice thing, in addition to be a very affordable program, you can download a free demo. So that means you have 30 days to just play with this and see if this is the right program for you. There are another number of other programs. Most of them are fairly expensive. So to start with, if you would, go ahead and download SewWhat Pro either for Windows or for Mac, depending on which platform you have, and install that. I'm going to assume you're familiar with the download and install process. I'll go ahead and click on the download, wait for it to come. You'll click on that, click yes, and then it'll kind of go through the process. Since I already have SewWhat Pro installed, you'll see a different menu here. Go ahead and click on use all the defaults and click next until it's fully installed. Next, we need to get some designs to play with so we can create something interesting. So I went to planetapplique.com and I'm going to go down here to free appliques and let's pick up a design. Let's do, say, a snowflake. So I'm going to click on the snowflake and I will just go down here and download that. Now, before we open this file, let's get organized. What you'll find is that with embroidery, you need a lot of digital products, and if you can't find what you want, then it's difficult to make something beautiful. So before clicking on this zip file to get the contents out, let's first create a place to put all these files. Over here, I just went to the documents portion of my PC, and I'll go and create a new file, and I'll call that embroidery. And it ends up right here. And inside that embroidery folder, now we need to create some categories. How about a category called Christmas? Maybe snowflake seems Christmassy to me. And so that's where I really want to put it, is all the way inside this documents embroidery Christmas. You're welcome to create whatever organizational scheme fits you, but do some organizing. It's important to do that. So let's go back to that download. I'm using Google Chrome. Other browsers will have other processes, but I'm going to click this Show in Folder button. Hopefully there's something similar for you. And it pulls up this long list of things. I'm going to right click on that and do a cut. Or actually, excuse me, I'm going to double click on this so we can see what's inside it. And inside it is this snowflake applique file. That's what we really want. I'm going to copy that and then go over to that Documents Embroidery place. I have two windows open, so I'll just flip to my other window, Embroidery Christmas, right click and paste right there. So now I've got this snowflake applique, and if I double click on that to go inside it, you'll see we have all these files, and what it is the same design in a bunch of different formats. These are all formats that different machines use. Brother machines, for example, use the PES. Singer typically uses XXX, and I don't offhand know what the other ones are for. But let's, before we load this in, let's go ahead and download a few more things so we can play a bit more. Going back here on Planet Applique, we have several other options, but rather than stick to one website, let's look around a little bit. Here's another great site called designbyjuju.com, and we'll go over to their freebies, and it looks like they offer a series of Bible verses. Let's download Proverbs 31, sounds great. I'll add that to the basket, go to the cart, check out. You'll need to log in or register to download this file. It is still free, they just want you to go through the process. Since I've used the website before, I just clicked on log in or register, and I'll go ahead and log in. You'll have to create an account and go through that process. And now again, we'll go back to those freebies. And then I'll go back to my shopping bag. And in the bag I have this Proverbs 31 verse. So we'll go ahead and check out. Now that we are logged into the website, we get the free instant download. And now let's take a look at that order so we can download those files. And I'm just going to click on the Download Files button. And here you actually get a choice. What format does your machine use? In my case, we have an XXX. You may have a brother machine. Feel free to ask me, but pick the correct format for your machine. Again, I'm going to download the XXX. It's actually not a big deal whatever format you download. SewWhat Pro opens all of these, so it's not a big deal. But because we have the Singer, we download everything as an XXX. Now we're going to go through that same process. We need to categorize that nicely. So before I even go in here to look at it, I need to find a good category to put it in. So here we are in my embroidery directory. Let's create a Bible verses category. And it's inside here. I want to put that download. Now remember, we already downloaded that snowflake applique. After you're done extracting it and finding a home for it, something important, delete it. So I'm going to go down here and just right click and select delete, because otherwise you'll not remember what you've unpacked and what you haven't unpacked and what's sorted and what's not sorted. So it is really important. Once you've got it categorized, make sure to delete it, because otherwise you end up with just masses of stuff and you have to sort through it all. But now we do have a new thing to download, or I'm sorry, not to download, but to categorize. We have this Virtuous Woman XXX. And so we'll go down to that. I'm going to double click on it to go inside. I'm going to copy this, and then we'll go over to the place where I placed the place where I'm ready to categorize it, up here in Bible verses, and I'm going to right click paste. If I double click on that to see what's inside, even though I asked for just the XXX, it looks like this website provides me with lots of different files as well. So that's kind of interesting. Let's practice that a few more times with a few more downloads. So here I am at babycaseappliques.com, and then if you go down to those design categories and scroll down a bit, you'll find freebies. So of course we'll go take a look at those freebies and see what we've got. And you know, it would be really nice to have a font to do some lettering. This looks like a nice font. Fat Dot, they have it 1, 2, and 3 inch sizes. So we'll go ahead and add that to the cart and proceed to checkout. Now of course you need to log in. I'm going to do that. You'll need to create an account and move through that process. Once you're logged in, if you need to, go back to the shopping thing, tell it what address you're going to bill to. Of course the price is nothing. You're not going to pay anything, but they just want to make sure you actually have an account and agree with their terms and conditions, but I don't really want their email stuff. And now that we've placed the order, I can click on this download link, and that takes it to the order status. I'm going to click on this download files link, and that finally gets me to two different fonts, fat.font.zip and the BX. The BX file doesn't apply to what we do or need, so I'm just going to download the fat.font. So I'm just going to click on this zip file and not worry about the BX. You could always download it if there's some other program that wanted to use it, but it's not really necessary for what we do. And again, the same sort of process. Before I open the file, I want to find a category for it. So I'll go over here to my embroidery directory and let me create a fonts folder, and then I'll double click on fonts to go inside it, and now I know exactly where to put that. Here's my downloads folder where we just did the Virtuous Woman font. Now remember, we want to delete that. We've already copied it, so I'm going to delete that, and now we're ready to look at that baby case fat.font. So I went to it here, fat.font, again double click to go inside. I'm going to right click, copy that file. Here's where I want to put it, so I'll paste that in. And fonts are actually a bunch of files. Each letter is its own file, so it takes a little while for that process to complete as it just copies all those files in. Now the files are there. Let's take a look and see what we've got. There's a 1-inch, 2-inch, and 3-inch. So actually the letters come in different sizes, and I guess the 3-inch is filled, maybe the 1 and 2 are hollow. I'm not really sure. And look at how this is categorized. Each type of file is in a different directory. Brother people would go here, singer people would go here, and here's all the different letters. Now, you probably won't see the letters here. I have another tool from the same company, S&S Computing, installed, so it actually lets me look at each of the letters rather than displaying a typical icon here. But you can see that all the letters are available, and if you notice, the single capital J is the capital letter, JJ in lowercase is the lowercase letters, the way they named that. All right, so at this point, think about where we've come. We've downloaded 3 different things. We have a Bible verse to play with, we have a snowflake to look at, and we have a font to use. So let's put all this together and create ourselves a quick design. So I'll start by going to the snowflake applique, and I'm going to load up the XXX version. It really doesn't matter which version you do. I'm going to start with a 4x4. All machines will support that size. It takes a larger machine to do a 5x7 or a 6x10, but a 4-inch by 4-inch is great. I'm going to load up the XXX. You can too, or a PES. It doesn't really matter. Now, JPG, that's not a sewing machine format. It's just a little image to show you what it looks like, actually what that will look like. But that's a side note. What really matters is go to the XXX, and I'm just going to double click on that file, and that should open up SewWhat Pro. So here's the snowflake, and we like to play with that a little bit and add some lettering. Now, unfortunately, I like computers, but I have no artistic sense whatsoever, so you'll have to excuse me as I do something exceedingly ugly to this design. I'm just going to put lettering right on top of it. Before we put lettering on it, let's take a look at how it's constructed. There's 3 different threads. It starts out with a red thread that just outlines, maybe does a little bit of tack down. Then they recommend a black thread, again just an outline there, and the last is the big fuzzy fill. Now you may not get the fuzzy yet. Make sure you click on View Texture. Without texture, it looks kind of not as pretty. If you click on that nice little texture thing, it just fills it in and gives you a better feel of what the stitched design will actually look like. So that's what our snowflake looks like. Next, we like to put some lettering on that. So I'm going to go back. Oh, before I forget, in my downloads, we have unpacked that file, so I'm going to go delete that. We've got that fat dot, delete that, so we don't forget what we've already categorized and what we haven't. I'm going to flip back over here to where I've got all my designs. I'll go back to Embroidery. We wanted to put a font on there, so I'm going to click on the fat dot font. Given that we have just a 4x4 area, let's stick with a smaller font. Let's do, say, a 2-inch font. Again, I'll pick the format for my machine. It doesn't really matter because SewWhat Pro will read any of this. Let me slide this over a little bit, and I'm just going to put my name in. So I'm going to drop the letter B in, and you can see how the letter B now shows up in my design. So one thing I like to do is I'm just going to click on the B and move it over a little bit. I'll just put my initials in the top corner. Now we want to put in the letter J. There are a couple of different ways to do it. If you're doing a fair amount of lettering, then this is a nice way. What I can do is click on this button, and it'll show me a preview of all the different things I've downloaded. So remember, we dropped a snowflake in a little while ago. Here's that font that I just dropped in, so it's fairly easy for me to find a J. Click on that and it puts it right into the design. So now we've got a BJ. I'm going to click this again so we go back to our the previous display. And again, you can see that the font is fairly simple. It's just a single color. There's the B and there's the J. And again, you can grab and drag and rotate and size and do all kinds of fun stuff to your design. We'll start with something relatively simple. One thing to be aware of when you do size things, be careful. If you take a J and shrink it down to something tiny, those stitches may get so close together they don't stitch well. So in general, be very careful when you scale fonts. That's why they're offered in a 1-inch, a 2-inch, and a 3-inch size. They've been scaled by the designer rather than by us, because the designer has more information about where those stitches should go and that sort of thing. So like I said, beware. Also notice that it's so easy to scale things in a weird way. I can grab this and kind of do like that, and you end up with a really bad looking J. That's definitely a bad thing. I like pressing edit undo quite a bit when I'm designing things. In SewWhat Pro, the best way to scale things is to go and do this resize pattern. It's a bit awkward, but one thing is it will auto adjust the stitch density, and that means that it does a better job of scaling things so that the shrunken or expanded thing still has the right number of threads and needle sizes and all that. So if I decide to scale this down by half, again, this is really further than you'd want to go, then it's going to do a better job, and it guarantees that my scaling isn't strange. That's exactly 50%. So just a bit of practice there. Again, don't be afraid to use that edit undo. It's a great feature. Let's say that this is really all we wanted to do for the design. So you want to be careful. Don't click on save, because that's actually going to save it over this snowflake 4x4 file. You don't want to do that. Instead, let's save it as something else. Now, back here, if we go to our embroidery, let's create another folder called My Designs. And that I'm going to call this BJ Snowflake. And at this point, you can close this file and send that to your embroidery machine. How you do that depends on which machine you have and how it's connected, but that's enough to at least get you started. Feel free to ask lots of questions, and I hope this has been helpful.